So we're going to make an espresso and whiskey cake paired with blueberries. This is not like any other cake that you normally make where you'll beat your eggs and your sugar, you'll beat your butter and your sugar, sorry, and you'll add your eggs one at a time and you'll try and keep it nice and light and fluffy. This is a boiled chocolate cake, so it's much easier. Everything sort of just goes into a pot, get whisked together by hand, and then goes in the oven. Nice and simple. The first thing I want to do is start melting all of my ingredients in my pot. So I've got some butter, some sugar, a dog. Now I'm going to add my liquids. I'm going to bring all this together on the stove and basically melt it. I've got some coffee, about 60 mils of coffee, 2 shots, and then about 45, so a shot and a half of whiskey. Pop that on the heat. I'm going to bring all that together. So I want my butter, my sugar, and my liquids to melt and come together in a bit of a sort of buttery coffee sludge. So I've now got my melted chocolate, my melted butter, my liquids and my sugar have all come together in there. I've taken the heat out of it by stirring it and also turning the heat from the bottom off. I want to add my eggs now, and you've got to make sure that heat has come out of it a fair bit. If you're stirring it and there's still steam coming off it, that's going to cook your egg. So make sure it's cooled down enough that you can add your egg. Now I'm putting 5 eggs in, but I am separating them. So I just want the yolks in there. I'm going to make it nice and glossy. So whites can go into a separate bowl. Now you don't panic too much if you get a little bit of white in there because it's a cake after all. But what we're trying to do here is create a really glossy, as soon as you put one in, just whisk it in. Trying to get a really glossy finish. We're going to separate all 5 of these and add them one at a time, whisking them in, and then it's time for our dry ingredients. These last couple. So you can see how glossy that chocolate is now. So basically we've added the egg yolk for a couple of reasons. One, it's nice and fatty, which is great for a cake. It's going to give you a great mouthfeel, but also egg yolk is an emulsifier. So because we had water in the whiskey and in the coffee in there with lots of fat in the butter and the chocolate, you need to bring that fat and that water together to become a nice homogenized liquid, or what I said before about a goop, almost a ganache. And the emulsifier in the egg yolk is going to do that. So it's going to tie our fat to our water, so we end up with a much better cake. Now it's time to put in our dry ingredients. Oh, actually, before I do that, just a little bit of vanilla. Vanilla, chocolate, blueberries, coffee, all goes really well together. So flour now. So because with mainly with the butter and the chocolate, it's going to react differently every time you do it, or you might use dark chocolate one time, you might use milk chocolate the next time. Butter, depending on, it varies. You're going to need to add different amounts of flour every time you make this cake. And this is where I've said in the past, things like hot cakes and pancakes, you don't want to whisk them too much because you're going to activate the gluten in the flour. That's going to make a stretchy cake, and that means the bubbles won't get to do their thing. We might get a nice light fluffy cake. This is more of a mud cake, so it doesn't matter if you whip it and whip it and whip it. You're going to end up with pretty much the same consistency, a nice, dense, moist cake, which is what we're after. So that's getting pretty close to sort of that normal cake batter mixture that everyone loves. I'm going to add just a touch more, not a lot, probably 1/4 cup. Whisk that in, a pinch of salt. Flour loves salt. A lot of the time if you're eating something and it tastes floury, there's normally 2 reasons why. 1, you haven't cooked the flour out, or 2, you didn't add salt to the flour. All right, I'm happy with that. I'm going to take my whisk out, get all my cake batter out of it, and use my spatula now to make sure I'm getting every little bit of cake I can into this cake tin. All right, you work hard to make a mixture like this, so you want to get all of it in there. I've just got a springform cake tin that I've put some baking paper on the bottom. Cake batter in. My oven is set at 180 degrees, and this is going to cook for about 45 to 50 minutes, just until, like with most cakes, a skewer comes out dry. This is one of those cakes that you can tweak. So it is a guide. If you're making a smaller cake or a bigger cake, you can just change the recipe slightly. So you've got that can go in. And check on that in about 45 minutes. I'm going to serve that with just some blueberries. Now you can have some cream with it as well, so a little bit of blueberries and cream on the side. You can make sort of a whipped cream and put some cream on top of the cake and then blueberries on top of that. But this just served in a bowl, slice of this cake with some cream and a few blueberries on top. Like I said before, that combination between coffee, whiskey, chocolate and blueberries with a little bit of vanilla is just a fantastic combination. It's probably something a lot of people don't think of having with whiskey is blueberries. Blueberries and whiskey are a really, really good combination. Next time you're sitting down and just having a nice whiskey, get a little bowl of blueberries to go with it, and you'll see what I'm talking about. So we'll come back and check on that. I reckon it'll be done in 45 minutes.